Good morning. Hello. It's Wednesday morning. Another beautiful day here in San Antonio, Texas. Again, we have some guests in the house. Coley, and Caleb. Two huskies belonging to our son Ivan and his girlfriend Victoria. Wonderful dogs. I took them for a nice walk. They've been fed. They've had water, so they're happy. I even brought them in the house for a bit to relax and get some cool air conditioning. They loved it. Okay, Curious George, a treasury of Curious George stories, 8 stories in all. Again, thank you for joining me with story time here at Jonny Rodriguez. Please tell your friends, neighbors, anybody that would like to be read to. I'm reading to people of all ages, okay? All ages, and I mean all ages. Let's start off with Curious George goes to a costume party. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. One day, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were on the way to a party at Mrs. Gray's house. The house they're going to, real kind of spooky, that big old house. It looks a little old-fashioned, indeed. George could not wait. He liked parties, and he was looking forward to seeing Mrs. Gray. But when the door opened, George did not see Mrs. Gray at all. He saw a witch. What? Don't be afraid, George, said the man with the yellow hat. This witch is our friend. The witch took off her mask. It was Mrs. Gray after all. Oh dear, she said. Did I forget to tell you that this was a costume party? Oh no. She forgot to tell them it was a costume party. So they arrived and she's dressed up as a witch. I'm reading for the doggies too. George had never been to a costume party before. Inside he saw more people than he knew. They were all wearing costumes. There was his friend Betsy dressed like an astronaut, and was that Bill? Why, he looked just like a mummy. George wanted to wear a costume too. I gave some dress-up clothes upstairs. I have some dress-up clothes upstairs, said Mrs. Gray. Would you like to use them as a costume, George? Look at that. All his friends dressed up as costumes. So she has some extra things that he can dress himself. So he's going to say for sure I want to use them. Mrs. Gray took George to a room with a big trunk filled with clothes. Borrow anything you like, George, she said. I have just a thing for your friend downstairs. George tried on lots of costumes. The first was too big. The next was too small. Another was too silly, and this was too scary. It sounds like the little 3 bears. So she has lots and lots of costumes in his treasure chest. At last, George found a costume that was just right. George was a rodeo cowboy. He wore a vest and pants with fringe. He even had a lasso and a hat. If only he could see himself in the mirror. George was curious. He could see himself. Could he see himself if he stood on the bed? Nope, he needed to jump higher. George balanced on the bed just a little, but he still couldn't see. Look at his rodeo costume. Now he's climbing onto the bed and jumping up. Nope, higher, higher, higher. And let's see. So here's George. He bounced a little more and a little more. Soon George was having so much fun he forgot all about looking into the mirror. He bounced as high as he could until, uh-oh, look at him go. Higher, 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 higher. Crash! George bounced off the bed. He smashed into the night table and got tangled up in the tablecloth. Suddenly, everything went dark. George had heard the people downstairs gasp. What was that? Was that a ghost? a ghost. George did not want to meet up with a ghost alone. He dashed out of their room and down the hall. He wanted to get out back to his friend.